Hi everyone, and welcome to the next video, hopefully the last video in the Nanoleaf Replica project. As you can see here, we've got our circuit boards have arrived, all nice in black there. I'm normally a bit of a traditionalist, I quite like the green ones, but I went for black, mainly because the original idea I actually had when I ordered these was it was going to be visible on the outside, but then obviously we've gone over to this fully enclosed version here. So we've got the PCB, the new cover, the new button which has the not light pipe through it. Then the other bits we've got here, just to quickly go through those while we're at it. So we've got the resistors for the LEDs, we've got a power socket, we've got the buffer chip, the push button, some standoffs for the chip. Now the reason I've actually had to do that is because the way that I've designed this, once that goes in there, you're not going to have easy access to the USB. So what I've decided to do is, these came with the actual board. It's really useful, so I'm going to use those to lift it up so you still have access to the USB on the end of it. And then there's lastly the lead, so that obviously we can get the connection out of the PCB and off to the LED string. Now, confession time here. If you've watched any of the other videos, in one of them I mentioned about designing this and making it so that the PCB is of a tighter tolerance to the inside here. The confession is I've made it too tight of a tolerance, so that means that it doesn't quite fit. It does, but when you sort of put it in, it's really tight. So what I'm going to need to do on this one first is grab some sandpaper, and all I'm going to do is sand down the sides just a little bit. It literally is, it's just ever so slightly too tight. So I've got to sand down the edges and then the corners. Hopefully that will mean it will fit. So that's going to be the thing I'm going to do before I do anything else on all of this. Close enough. Right. Fits in with only a small amount of binding, so that's not too bad. The binding itself is possibly because where the 3D print has started and stopped at certain positions, so you've got printer's not too bad, but it does leave the occasional little lump because of it, so it's probably binding on that. So now that we know that, let's just do another quick check. So yeah, fits in fine. So the next thing is to start getting everything soldered on board. Now this is obviously, it was designed to be a double-sided board. So we've got one side here, which has got the button and the LEDs in, and then the other side has pretty much every other component on it. I've not really done anything like this before, where it's been so many components like this. So I'm not entirely sure what's going to be the best way of doing this. So this is a bit of an experiment for me. I'm thinking, looking at it, in terms of gaining access, if I do the buttons and the LEDs first on this side, that means all of the solder points are here, so I don't need to gain access to them anymore. If I do them last, the resistors and the ESP, even the chip itself, the buffer chip, is going to be in the way. So I'm thinking if I start with those ones and then switch over to this side and then do the usual, start with the smallest and then get larger with it. So let's make a start on that one. So initially all I'm going to do is solder one leg in, because the LEDs themselves need to be straight on the other side, so they all need to be flush with the board. So we'll do one LED, one leg first, and then what I can do is from the other side put pressure on the LED, so that way as we melt that leg we can get it. Oh, if I don't let go too early. There we go. So then that's nice and flush against the PCB itself. Okay, so what we've got is a jumper here, so we can actually select whether or not the LEDs are run by the ESP or if they run permanently off the 5 volts. So on this one, we're going to see if my idea works, and we're going to run it off of the relay. So I'm just going to, or the relay output. So I'm just going to jump her over there, redirect the power properly, and then just carry on from the other side after giving this a very quick clean with some isopropyl just to get rid of all of the flux residue off of it. So again, on the IC, I'm just going to tack one of the legs down just to make sure that the whole thing is now flush with the surface, which it is. And just fill in the rest of them afterwards. So to get the headers on for the ESP, what I'm going to actually do is attach them to the ESP, which I've already put its own headers on, and then these can go into there, which will just help to make sure I've got everything lined up properly. And again, just start with one pin or one leg on each one, and then we can check to make sure everything's lined up. Okay, so that's that bit all soldered in. The only thing we're missing is a diode. Now, to be fair, I don't actually have one, the one that I thought I had. So I'm actually going to live life a bit dangerously and just put a wire link in there just to allow the unit to be tested, if nothing else, for the moment. So again, we've got just a wire link. Just going to bend it roughly in the right place. Pop it in. Now, had I thought about it, I should have actually done this first, because it is literally the lowest lying component on here, but I didn't. So there we are. And then lastly, our cabling. That's terrible. These are actually meant to be pre-tinned, but whoever tinned them didn't actually twist the cables together. Let's redo them completely. If I get these the right way around, that would be catastrophic. Now, whether you solder something like this, the cable, the insulation often shrinks back a little bit. So I just want to check. No, that's gone reasonably well. That's okay then. Excellent. So let's plug this fella in, making sure we obviously get it the right way round. So the outline, I'll show you that quickly. There is the outline there, notch on the side there, which is where the reset button is. So hopefully that notch lines up there. Could probably do more of a mark on the PCB for that, but that is what it is. Right, so that's that bit there. So what I want to do very quickly is first off power this up from the USB. If I can find a USB cable. So from a USB power bank, which has some power in it, plug this in. Now this is already pre-flashed, so it should plug in. So we've got that illuminated there. Now I'm really hoping that the LEDs are actually on the other side. And they are. Excellent. That's brilliant. And they're actually reasonably bright as well. These are ultra bright LEDs, so they should be quite bright. So if we do that, yeah, it is going to do what I thought it was going to do. Now it's a bit blown out because of the lighting I've got here now. Let me just turn this off. So yeah, it looks a bit better in real life. Let's turn the other light off the camera. There we go. Actually, that's not too bad. The camera does a bit more justice to it than it does look in real life, but it's workable. So yeah, happy with that. Let's turn the lights on so I can actually see what I'm doing. Excellent. So hopefully if we press that, it should then turn off. I'm so happy that's actually working. Because to be fair, I didn't actually test any of that before I'd done this, so I am really glad that did work. So let's get that out of the way. Again, another quick clean up just to get rid of all of the flux that's on there. So now we know that that's working, next thing is to mount it into here. And again, in a previous episode, we were saying about how I was going to attach it. And the plan is to use these little brass. Words are hard at times. Brass inserts. So the easiest way I've found to do these is if I take my soldering iron, get rid of that one I've been using for solder. And nice thing about this is obviously I can pull the ends off, and I've got these other ones which this has got a nice conical tip which works really well for this. I've also got on this one, you've got two temperature settings. So I've got the bottom one set at a lower temperature compared to my soldering. Now set at a lower temperature. So what we can do here is these ones here are designed so there's a little round section at the moment at the bottom which doesn't have any of the knurling on. So what I normally do here is pop that into, grab hold some pliers so I can get into the corner. It's probably the tightest area I've done for these. Okay, so with that set to the temperature, basically just shove it in and it will heat up and then just melt down into the hole that we made in the 3D print. And there we go, one nice and neat-ish. Yeah, that's an easier way of doing it. And there we go, so that's our 3 brass inserts into it. Now I need to leave those some time to cool back down again, just so that the plastic obviously re-solidifies around them and actually grips hold. So we'll leave that a couple of minutes and we'll be back then. So they've had a chance to cool, and what I've gone and grabbed as well are the bolts I'm going to use to attach this with. Adorable little things, little button heads, hex button head with, it's only 6mm, but that should be enough for this. Now the thing to bear in mind with this is something I didn't realise until I really printed this out and had it in my hand, is I'd off-centred the button, unfortunately, a bit more than I thought I had. So we need to make sure that's orientated the right way around. Obviously first off we need to put the button in, then making sure that is the correct way around, we can pop the circuit board in and then bolt it down. And there we go. So this is all now ready to go into the actual unit. So let's grab that. And I'm probably not going to have enough room for it, but we'll manage. We shall adapt and persevere. So one other thing I need to do before I actually put the new section in is the cable that I've currently got, which brings the power and data into the unit, is using my temporary one that originally I put on just for testing actually. but it just seemed to stay. So I'm going to replace it with the connectors that I've been using for everything else, just so that it's consistent across the whole thing, and actually it attaches to what we've just done. So let's take the old one off and put the new one on, and also make sure I've got the right tip on. Now that's that on. Let's just channel that out the back. Okay, so that's that one. So this is, I don't have a big enough space for this. Right, let's take this one off. Okay, now the way I've got it, this is actually the bottom down here, so we have it that maybe that's going that way. There we go. And then connect up to our cable we've just done. And that's it, we're ready to go. I hope. Now I've just discovered a problem. The button's not buttoning. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, I'm going to have to take this apart and have another look at it, and we'll come back once I figure out what the problem is. Right, so that's that problem solved. Well, I say solved, bodged, but all I've done there is, I think the base of the button is a little bit too thick. So based on the measurements I've done for the LEDs and the button, it wasn't all quite matching up. So I effectively smashed the things too tight together. So what I've done is, in with the bolts, I've just put a couple of washers under each one just to move the PCB back out again. So now it works. The only thing with it is that there is a bit of wobble now, just because of the fact that it's not quite in as deep as I would like. But redesign wise, what I'd probably do is move the PCB a bit further back, so that way there's a bit more depth for the switch to go in, so there's less sort of room for it to wobble around. But next up is powering this thing up for reals and hoping that I've got my polarities right, because if not, I'm about to blow everything up. There we go. Excellent. So we've got them in there. Let's just turn that off. So press that, power down, and back on again. Excellent. It's always nice when something actually works, especially when you've had a few errors and problems along the way. So just a couple of bits of update before we consider this thing relatively complete. The button itself, this one with the not light pipe, I redesigned it completely. So this is actually now 3 parts. So what you've actually got in there is the 2 black parts and then a clear part. So anyone with a single extruder printer can actually make this as well. So that's one change I've done. It just made the whole printing process just that little bit cleaner. So it's a nicer, cleaner effect for it. And the cat's just jumped up. You just want to be on YouTube, don't you? Please don't stand on that, that's not enough. So yes, that's now 3 pieces. So anyone with a single extruder printer can actually print this off, and it's just 3 pieces that glue together quite easily. The other piece is still the same. There's nothing really changed on that. I will update the design files with the new changes so that we can push the PCB back a bit. But just to spin this around, what you can see on the rear, so you can hopefully get it into shot. Find a way of getting it into shot. There we go. So there's the back of it. So again, there's nice depth between it, so it's not sticking anywhere too far. So I can probably move this back by 2 or 3 mil easily without it being an issue. So we've got the connector there. That, by the way, I have labeled, I think I did anyway, the positive and negative on there. So if you don't want to use a connector like this, you could just hardwire it straight in. So that gets rid of that particular problem as well. And the other thing probably need to look at doing is with this new printed section here, having some openings on the inside here, just so that this cable at the moment has to run literally out the back of it. There's no other way for it to go. So it could actually run in and then obviously round to connect up to it. There is enough cable for it to do that. So some thoughts for the future, but on the whole, I am extremely happy that this has actually worked properly and it is doing what it's supposed to do. So any questions, obviously feel free to ask them in the comments. I'll try to answer as many as I can if I can answer them. And hopefully this will be the last one in this series. So thank you for watching, and we'll see where the next project takes us.